Sponsored by Liquid Death. Send us money. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So this is our 8th and final episode for the year, at least. You know, if we will keep it going next year. But our 8th and final for the school year of Unfinished Legacy. All right. So this is our podcast in the Thrive Center. So if you're tuning in for the first time, appreciate you being here. My name is Brian Palomo. I'm a senior coordinator on the mentoring team here in the Thrive Center. Yeah, excited for you to be here. Who wants to introduce themselves next?
My name is Durham McGay. I'm also a coordinator of Outreach and Advocacy team here at Thrive Center. Good to see you all.
My name's Roman Odosco. I am a peer mentor here in the Thrive Center, and I was on the last Men of Color podcast for fall, and I'm on the last one for spring. So there's a theme.
Best for last.
So I'm the only one who hasn't done this so far? Wow. This is not usually an experience I have. Usually been around for a while.
Imposter syndrome
Yeah,
is kicking in.
nice.
Devin.
What do I say?
The pressure is real.
So I'm Patrick Bryan, and I work with our peer mentoring and New Start teams, trio team. Been here a long time.
This is W.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He doesn't have a first name, it's just a letter. It's just a W.
Mm-hmm.
W, like the president. I don't know if y'all know who that is. But
We got the three Brians in here.
it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Roman. So, yeah, for today we're going to talk about why Brians are the best.
Yes.
But also why spelling with an I is the correct way.
Horrible.
So, we can take 20 minutes to talk about it. Yeah, I think we can do that.
Well, you guys didn't have
Should've
an
invited
empire
the
named
Bryans.
after you, so
Oh, entire empire. Yeah.
That fell.
Okay.
That's funny.
it's coming back.
He had a hot minute. Or two.
It's, yeah.
Three.
So, yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, we're in the last one of the year, which also means the semester's wrapping up. So honestly, I was thinking for a while what I thought would be good for us to talk about, you know, kind of going into this last one, and you know, I was having some convos with folks, and one thing that got kind of brought up and pushed around. That's a weird way to say that. Anyway, I think that was just brought up was like vision boarding and thinking about goals, etc. Which also got me thinking because recently I was having a conversation about like success, and it's a convo we sometimes have in the Thrive Center with like our students, right? Of like thinking about that. So I guess, I don't know, that's not really a super clear direction, but I guess like my idea is that we'll kind of talk through a little bit about what success kind of means to us. Because I kind of want us to talk through our goals and things as I know it's not a new year in the traditional sense, but for us, right? Like we're entering into the end of the school year and we'll start transitioning into a new academic year. So we start thinking about what our goals and like picturing that for next year. But also then I'm kind of just curious, like, why is that your goal? You know, like, how do you understand success? Like, why is that? Does that make sense? A little bit, maybe.
Mhm.
You can pretend. Yeah, it's fine. But I guess, yeah, I mean, first things first, does anybody have any thoughts on success?
Well, I was thinking when you were saying this earlier, so I'm having this experience with success in a weird way. So I've been working on this PhD thing for this is 14 years now in the summer. And the reason it's taking that long is because I had kids, and then that takes away from the time to sit and like focus on it. And my topic has changed as a result of like the timing and everything. And so I'm very, very close, I think. And the plan was to finish this spring, and I hit some roadblocks there. So then I think I'll finish in the summer. That's the goal. Latest is like the very first month of the fall semester, but it'll be done this year. The success part though is that so that I've kind of been forced to walk now for a number of reasons. One is education only has one ceremony now, and they only do it in the spring. And then I want to do the Guerrero graduation, but I don't know that there's going to be another Guerrero graduation after this year, right? So I'm kind of like taking advantage of it. So then the consequence of that is that my dad lives in Cleveland, so he wants to come out and go to the graduation, which is great. But then I feel weird about doing graduation anyway because I haven't actually finished yet. I know I will, but it still feels weird to do that. And my parents want to celebrate because I think I'm the only one other than my cousin, I think has a master's, my oldest cousin. Yeah, and my immediate, like my family, like my cousins and stuff. And then I'll be the only one with a PhD. So they want to celebrate. And so then my dad's like, oh, we have to have a party at your house. So we're going to, like, it's not a huge party, but like a little party. But it still feels weird. Like, okay, so we're going to celebrate this thing. And I'm not actually done yet. And it's taken me like this really long time to get it done. So I have to like celebrate in advance. Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's success and we'll celebrate it. But like it's like, it would feel a lot better if I was actually done right now.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's a weird
Patrick. That's interesting, Patrick, that you bring that up. Because I look at it, there are different ways too. I think it's a celebration of you in that journey, right? I think we look at things like, well, the end point, right? The end point, beginning, end, finish, that's it. We don't look in between, right, to get to that end point sometimes. I think, at least for from my perspective as a male person color, right? Then male, that's always like the beginning. Like you start something, think about it right, get it going, set your goals, and then the end product. That's it. We don't look at, sometimes we forget those middle aspects of it. I think that's kind of changed my perception of working with students and students for services, right? And TRIO and various other programs I've worked with across different programs. But even just being the parent too as well. I know we want that beginning, like start strong, start good, and then finish strong. That's it. But the beginning, the middle of it, like, what are we doing in that middle component? And I'm looking at it from a parent perspective, and I appreciate your dad saying we'll celebrate things like that. I want to celebrate that. I think those celebrations are a little bit, I guess in my context, is like, okay, we're gonna pray, we're gonna have ceremonies for you. People put up ceremonies like that. In my culture, we put up ceremonies through that process, even though it's not complete, it's not done, because that's when the ceremony should be done, right? Congratulations, thank you, welcome, thank you ceremony, things of that nature, right? Or something that, a token of appreciation, gratitude to those who all supported you. But to get there though, you're still doing those celebration of that journey, going through to get it done, right? So I look at it from those lenses. So it's interesting you bring that up, because I had a similar experience. You know, I walked prior before getting my diploma, but I postponed my graduation too, but they told me to walk. Even though those are the phases I had incompletes. And it was my undergrad. And it was my history professors who told me, yes, we'll give you incomplete because it was really busy, things like that. Things got pushed off, they weren't gonna get done by a deadline, but they're like, walk, get it done, because it's for the family, and you're not gonna waste another year coming back, so get it done, do that, celebrate, but know you have this work done. And it's just kind of another way of a checkpoint in the journey of reestablishing, reaffirming, redoing that motivation, that refocus, that outlook, that regeneration to get to go forward. And that's how I perceive that. So thank you for bringing that up and being courageous to share that, in this space and talking about that saying. Because I think sometimes we look at it like, we shouldn't do that, right? But there's points in times where we got to do that too, to refocus and regenerate and renew our focus in a sense of, and re-energize, continue on why we're doing this, why we're here, people support us, and actually seeing it, because we don't see those people a lot of times, right? It's just our immediate home, our family, our wives, right, or who are in a relationship, who our partner is. But nonetheless, there's people out there who support us, who are really close to us, or continue to support us. They want us to succeed, and we don't see that. So this might be that time where they come together to see it, like visualize and see it in person, real. Like, okay, yes, it's here. They're supporting me continuously, and it's about motivation to get it done. So I look at it in those lenses, Patrick. So thanks for sharing it, because that was my experience in my undergrad.
You know what? When you said that, I remember too. Last year, we had a peer mentor that was graduating, who was mocking for the same reason. He was going to finish in December, but wanted to do the Guerrero one, and that's only in the spring, right? Yeah. And so his mom, I think, came down and everything. Was Daniel ever on here? But anyway, so he was going through, and he was like, telling me, like, oh, well, I'm just going to walk though. And I'm like, well, no, we're celebrating because you're not coming back to do it again. So you might as well like celebrate it now. Like, this is when you can do it, so this is when you do it, and then you'll finish, but it'll be done. Like, just like you're saying, exactly. I guess I actually said the same words to him, but I didn't. It's weird to apply it to yourself.
Exactly.
It's weird to apply
and it's like, we look at things, a lot of things in circular motion, right? They're continuous. And sometimes these institutions, they only stagnate us and only give us two different points of ends, right? The beginning and end. They don't have like these middle components of celebration, time of moment, to take time out to celebrate and give homage or give respect or something of those nature in ceremony ways from how we think of things, right? From our cultural background, our cultural knowledge of what we're bringing. So I think those are some things that are missing within institutional. We have to fit and adapt to these different institutional ways and spaces too, as well, about how they do things. I think those are things that kind of limit us in a lot of different ways, especially a person of color. From my own opinion, my own experience too.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like doesn't feel right because you have to accomplish something tangible, you know.
Yeah.
But like, what does that mean? It kind of does go into the whole like success idea, right?
Mhm.
It's like we're really taught we need like something like practical
Yeah.
or like that we can fully check this box or whatever. But like,
Mm-hmm.
there's success in the journey,
Yeah.
you know, like beyond that too.
It goes back to the beginning conversation that Brian said, right? Where he's like, well, even though it's not the beginning of the new year, right? For some, but right now, tribal nations have different New Years that are coming up, right? In the Auckland Nation, we have Kiowa people, we have different tribal nations whose New Years are approached right now. And this is some of the beginnings of those New Year times. So it all depends on how you're looking at about these tangible successes, right?
Yeah,
These
it's
are
all
beginning big
perspective.
successes moving forward. So
I also think, touching on your point about the institutions, Derwin, and how I think so too, these kinds of places like institutions kind of define success for marginalized peoples, for men of color, like differently in ways that like in Patrick's situation with having to kind of take it as it is. I feel like that's kind of like how a lot of the times the institution approaches us with these options, and it's like you take it as it is or your fate is really unknown. And I feel like it's something that is very noticeable in kind of how they treat celebrations for those who are marginalized, right? It's kind of like, well, you're not really going to get another chance, and it's like, why? So it's always kind of like an ultimatum when it comes to, at least that's in my experience here, right?
Like, be thankful for what you do have.
Yeah, kind of like, oh, well, you're gonna walk, you know,
Yeah.
but we're also gonna take away these things.
these experiences.
So be grateful.
Yeah, I guess a part of my calculus too, right, was like, it has taken so long. And then, like, okay, so then I'll finish it and then I won't walk because I decided to wait until I was done to do it. And I'm like, nah, I'll just do it. But it's just wrestling with that, like, sentiment. Because then all my family's going to want to celebrate and they're going to be, like, celebratory. And I don't want to be like, oh, but I'm not done yet. So we're going to, like, no, enjoy it, right? I'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
And we'll celebrate. But it's just a weird space.
It is a weird
Great space.
At this point, what's 3 months, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's an interesting kind of like perspective. A good way to kind of kick off. You know, like what success really means. When should we celebrate? And what's the like? Is it? I mean, we do have this very like binary idea of that, you know, in general. But I guess like kind of transitioning on like a related note in terms of success. Like, how would y'all say that you personally define success? Why? Or like where do you think that kind of came from when you think about it, you know? Like what do you value in terms of that?
This is tough because I've had more experience with success's little brother failure than I have with success. And I think for me, I kind of view it from the lens of like I guess like failing is a strong word, but that's the word I'm going to use, right? I kind of view it from that lens in terms of always having to adapt and always having to, you know, look at things in various different perspectives to be able to kind of see where the success in that lies. And I feel like for me, in my undergrad journey, I think success is something that is not like super clearly defined. And I guess that's why you have these kinds of conversations, right? It's something that you kind of have to view through various different things like failure, right? In order to fully like get the grasp of success is like a language. Because I feel like it's a language, different dialects, as in like different meanings for different people.
But then what would you say differentiates between a success and a failure? Is it just...
I think it's the lesson. The lesson that you take out of it, really. that differentiates it.
Okay.
Do you get a lesson from success, or is the lesson from
Do it again? No, I'm just kidding.
Do you get a lesson from success? Yes. I think you can get a lesson from it. Purely based off of the fact that it just doesn't end there. Like there's always gonna be something more beyond that.
Yeah, this is a very complex topic. You can look at it very complex, but you can also look at it very simplistic too.
Mm-hmm.
I've always heard that saying, right? Because you pursue a PhD, but once you get done, like all this momentum, there's a big old pedestal where people put people with PhDs, right, or doctorals, things like that. It's like, but at the end, I always hear PhD people who receive their PhD. At the end of it, they're like, all of this is just a humbling experience, and then they don't use the term like, don't call me doctor. Don't call me. It's like, where's the success? Like, I don't know. So go to your train of thought, like the lesson of the process, the experience, the language. But yeah, I think it's very complex. I've heard people, I've shared a story with our men of color students one night in our last session that we had these. I said to be successful, it's just one small aspect of being success, in my own opinion, having a good attitude. And I was thrown out the window. It's like, well, the only way to be successful with anything in life is believing in religion, right? Believing in the creator, all this stuff, and detection. And I'm like, okay, I'll just keep my mouth shut then. And I believe that that's true, right? For some people, that can be success, and that may be the only success. But I think there's various different ways of success. I think just working with students shows you that. I think success comes to all different forms. But I really like the quote that this young student mentioned to us, was that, it's all about where you're at in life is what defines what your success is, and how you define those, and how you are bargaining those for yourself. Some people have it in wealth, vehicles, right, clothing, all these other knowledge, all these things are what they have accumulated, but also cultural wealth. But students are like, well, you have to look at it in the context of where you're at, what you're striving, where your journey on that, and where your successes are. Not everyone's the same. They're all different, multifaceted. So I really look at that really interesting from those various perspectives. So for me, success is just being, happy in a sense, right? Holding on to my culture, language, traditions, ceremonies, family is a big success for me. Knowing that I have family there still with me, moving on this journey. And I think those are very relations, relatives, and still maintain those connections to success, right? And I guess in my term, it would be my language, keeping a sense of balance, hajon, and making sure I'm maintaining those kinship relationships, those things. So those are things that really success in a sense. That's very general.
But when you say happy,
Mm-hmm.
what's the source of that?
Knowing that you have that. You have those people in your space.
Yeah.
You have those conversations still today.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are still successes for me, that I'm still able to communicate with these people and talk with these people and still instill those cultural knowledge and teachings within myself and my own things, and remembering those are successes for me on a personal level.
What about you, Brian?
It's a good question. I've been holding out. Been waiting. I hadn't really fully thought about it yet. I don't know. Success is an interesting kind of idea. I think I agree with a lot of what Darren's been saying. I think a lot of it is just, I feel that sense of like connection and community and all of that is like very important. I think at the end of the day, what I see as success is just being, I guess it could see like, it's like whether you see it as a glass half full or half empty kind of thing, but it's like success is just like being okay, I guess. I don't know, like you've got all your basic necessities, I think there's lots of social aspects you would say within that too, but I think it's just like, I guess my point is that like it depends on how you want to see it, but I don't think success necessarily has to be this super high pedestal versus just you're alright. I don't know, because there's a lot of people who aren't alright, and it's like I've got I get like a paycheck, I got a place to live, I've got friends and a dog, that I have a great time with, I've got like my family that I really value, given and chosen, right? Like all these different things, and like to me it's a success, and it's like, in some ways I could use more, but I don't necessarily think I need more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I call that like a success in and of itself, you know. I think we're just very like taught to like just want more, you know, and like where's that balance?
Well, isn't that like the complicated nature of this, right? Because like, okay, so the four of us are here chit chatting on a podcast at a university, and I'm talking about my problems are, you know, I'm graduating, walking early before I finish my like poor Patrick, like, you know. But in the context, right? It's like, who the hell cares? Like that. Like that's not a problem. That's not a real problem. I mean, it feels weird, and it does feel very like impostery, right? That minimize my own anecdote, but but in the reality of things, like you're saying, in the grand scheme, it's like, you know, and I think that's also a nature of like Minnecolorado on campus, right? It's like you might have a family or family members that aren't able to go to college, aren't able to finish, or you know, have trouble finishing, right, for a number of different reasons that might prevent them from being able to even come here or stay. And then you're also trying to reconcile that with like being okay with and happy with your own success at the same time, right? And so like that, like wrestling with that piece, I think can be a challenge, because it's like you want to, and then you also recognize you're, like you're saying, right, you're part of a community. So like anything you're doing is not just you. There's all these people who are helping and aiding you and have been like paving the way for you to get here to do the things that you're doing now. And so you're part of a continuum that has been pushing you, right? And there hopefully will be a continuum that occurs after you. But how do you measure that with your?
And then it's like
also
those people that you mentioned, right? Like you've got community members and family members and friends, whomever, right? Who don't go to college, or maybe they start and they don't finish, or maybe they whatever, you know, and like, does that make them not successful?
No,
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm saying like,
but it makes it
you
makes
know?
it feel weird to celebrate this as a success.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I guess it's my point on that is that it's all like contextual, right? And like how different people will like conceptualize it. But like part of what I was just bringing up is I just think like it's just interesting because with the very strong like, you know, like neoliberal, like all these different things like cultures that we build that also tie pretty heavily into masculinity, right? Of like wanting to be the best, want more, whatever, right? Like I don't know why, but I immediately thought of Ash Ketchum, Pokemon, right? I definitely grew, you know, millennials, so they loved it, right? But it was like you want to catch them all, right? All the badges, all the Pokemon, whatever. But it's like maybe there's like, does that mean that if there's a trainer that finds like these like 5 Pokemon that they love and they, you know, and they just chill with that, are they not a successful Pokemon trainer? No, they found what feels good for them, you know. I guess that's kind of what I mean versus like culturally we have this idea of like always wanting to strive for more, but it's like okay to just like once you fill the spot that feels good, like enjoy that, you know, versus like I feel like we always get somewhere and then it's like no, I need to succeed more. I need to keep.
I think I think we then to, you know, a lot of conversation comes around about that color, right? You know, when we talk about these issues about what success means, I think we're overshadowed, we get caught up with the social media, or just not even just social media, just in general, people's ideas and attitudes towards what success and what our success should be, right, as men of color. I had this conversation the other day, like, we started a men's prayer circle some years back, my brother Steve Martin, right, and we had these conversations about that, and it's like, how can you be successful as a native male if you don't have your hunting traditions, right? You can't be the protector, the warrior, and you can't be leader of these ceremonial ways, because a lot of our tribal nations have lost a lot of that. Lost everything. All they have is just a bit of land, if that, you know, and they're trying to rebuild this. And so that term success is very, you know, daunting and very heavy of a burden that some people carry, right? And so it's like, it's just really, how do we refocus and reshift that mindset and looking at like, this is a success, these are my successes and how we're moving forward, how I'm moving forward, and every little bit towards what that may look like, what that may be is ours, of what we define what that to be for us. I think those are some things that I think kind of run through my mind, you know, because I know it impacts a lot of our Native students when we've had those conversations. But I know they mention things like, well, I don't feel successful and like I have no purpose, you know, like what is success? Like, I don't even speak my language. I don't even do these things no more. We don't even have these things. It's been taken over now. We're not the caregiver. We're not the providers of more in a lot of different ways. Not to say that should be the male stuck on the middle. but it's part of the warrior society in the sense, right, where somebody tribal nations. Not all. I'm not speaking for all tribal nations. I'm just saying these are based on conversations I've had with students who identify with these tribal nations or with these identities in past years. But it was an interesting conversation to have around that. But how do we build up each other to reaffirm and reaffirm and solidify people's successes that they have. So I think those are my way. And then you bring up a good point, Patrick and Brian and Raymond, about even in this institution, right? We look at successes are so many different layers of successes, right? Institutional programming, cohort, right? All these different successes, parameters, and data that we have to meet. Then you have this whole community, cultural, and then you have this personal, family situation too. So success is very multifaceted, multi-layered in a sense.
That's even more interesting too. Is like awards.
Yeah.
I always feel weird about awards because it's like, okay, if you have to apply for it yourself, then it's like you have to like toot your own horn, right? And then there's like the weird like feeling of that, like you have to put in an application, and then it's completely arbitrary about just whoever decided to apply that year is like who wins. So is it like, what does that mean for that award? Or I always feel weird about awards. I remember like in my fraternity we started doing awards like for a banquet. It was like, oh, okay, well then this should go to this person, and it's like, well, okay, but what are our criteria and like or like they would be like, oh yeah, you should get that award. But no, I should not get awards. I'm giving the award. I'm making the award. Like, why would you? It's just a weird, like the whole structure of like awards. I think is just kind of, I don't know.
Even talking about the term success, like boasting about oneself, right?
Yeah,
because that's just awkward. Like it's weird to talk about your success because then it's like you're just boasting, bragging about yourself. And some cultures, like our culture, like you don't do that. You don't. It's frowned upon, or it's not something you should be doing, right? It should be coming from others in a sense, right? Who know you, who witness those things, but not from you. So it's very hard to have these conversations in these kind of settings and spaces like that about what your successes or what you feel the successes are. That's right. It should come from the actions, what you're exuding consistency throughout your day on this life, right?
And people should be celebrated too, right? And I don't mean it in that way, or like
No awards.
people do great. Yeah, it's not like
No awards.
it's just that again,
No
it's that like
celebration.
complicated like thing about it, right? It's like okay, so
No walk-in, no graduation.
I'm tossing my New Star award out.
No awards.
get it off.
No thumbs up.
No, but like okay, that's a good example, right? So like that we do awards for New Start,
Yeah.
but like that's a defined set of time, right? So it's for that year. There's a defined people who are eligible, right? And there's a criteria you're looking at, right, to kind of figure that out. I think that makes sense in those contexts, right? But I think it's like the ones that you apply for yourself. I always feel like a weird setup,
Yeah, that's
So-
very interesting.
We're coming up soon and we gotta start wrapping up. So before that, well, I do have a final question that I want to offer
Wait,
to folks, but
I
I was
wanna-
actually gonna ask if you had final thoughts, Roman.
I do.
Oh.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take everything y'all said and I'm gonna use Brian's Pokemon analogy, but
Okay.
I'm gonna break it down for people that in a way that kids nowadays can understand. So the way I think of
Obama
success,
translate.
yes,
Roman's Roundup.
the way I think of success and I think the kids are really gonna appreciate this one.
Okay.
Is it's like building a tower of Minecraft blocks, right? You start with dirt, and then you go to wood, and then you got cobblestone, and you're jumping and adding them as you with each step that you take in life, right? And then eventually you get to netherite, or well, you go from like cobblestone to like diamond, and then emerald, and then all these redstone, and then you get to netherite, and then at the end you get to the chicken at the very top,
This is a good analogy.
and then I guess you could think of success as like reaching that chicken at the very top and just saying like I've gotten the W, chicken jockey.
The chicken is however you perceive it. you
Yep.
know?
That's how my version of success has come from this.
I think
So-
Roman was watching the First Cats podcast right now. I don't know if that was I
I
didn't
No.
get any of that from this, but that's
No, I did.
you're translating to the kids, and I appreciate it.
Like
It's
Brian
just-
said, the
yeah,
Obama
it's skibbity.
translator.
All I know is
He's a translator.
The
That's
layer.
cool. All right, so as we wrap up, right? So this will be our last episode for the year, right? And I know we already talked about it earlier in terms of like arbitrary ideas of New Year's and transitions, whatever. And there's this whole culture around that, and like why does it have to be the start of a new year to have a goal? You know, things like that. But nonetheless, we're coming up on the end of the academic year. It does mean transition time for all of us in many different ways. Moving forward into the next academic year, well, let's vision board real quick. What do y'all see as your goals? We won't do a bunch because Phoebe's gonna have to edit. I just want to hear like 1 or 2 goals from people, and you don't have to put them up if you really don't want to. But yeah, what like going into this next as this academic year wraps up, etc. So like for like Patrick, we already heard it's to actually graduate, not fake graduate.
Yeah. Real graduate.
So you can put a cap and gown on.
Yeah.
Cap on his. I mean, you can have another one if you do.
Here, do it right. Editor, do it right here.
Plenty.
Do it at this moment,
Roman,
editor.
what's your big goal for you right now? What would be success for you in this next academic year?
Passing physics, man.
Nice.
Passing physics.
Vibes. Good vibes.
Can you put
Yes.
Can you put like the Oppenheimer hat on him?
Yeah.
That's
Just-
pretty physics, right?
I need to be a physicist. Not really.
Just don't do what he did.
No, I won't. No, absolutely not.
Just enough physics to treat him.
Just enough.
Just-
Enough. 'Cause-
Yeah, the right amount.
The physics
Yeah.
of animal.
But I guess my actual goal, well, that is my actual goal, but I think is just to improve, continue to improve. And by doing that, by passing physics, I think I'll reach the top and there won't be any more
The
success.
chicken, you're done.
I'll
That's
have
the
reached the
chicken.
chicken and not the nuke. Not the nuke.
Good one.
Anybody got any other goals?
I think I have a couple of goals. I think the first one is get through my son's graduation in May, and so I'm excited about that. I think that's a big success, you know. That
Sure.
he's reaching a big success milestone for him and us as a family, so I'm happy for that. Second one is Cielo's coming up, and so you know I'm looking forward to this year because
Where are you going?
we're going to White Mountain Apache Reservation, we're going up to Navajo Nation, and then we're coming back down here to Tohono Nation people too as well, their res.
Okay. Can they sign up still?
They can. They
That's
line up these May 15th. I'm not too sure. Don't check on the Seattle website. But I want to hopefully educate. A lot of people are coming. Last year we did a lot of good work. But I think this year I want to push myself to do more and educate and try to help and facilitate and answer a lot of questions for the students and participants on that trip. Third goal is really like Patrick too. I'm working my PhD. It's been taking me a long time. Same similar situations. Change the topic. People, you know, and just this environment that we're in right now, a lot of things have changed. But I want to get my lit review done, and I've been working on that this semester, so I want to get the lit review done on this new topic that I started in January, so very short, and I'm trying to get this lit review done and by summertime and hopefully get my comprehensive done, hopefully in September, if not, then in fall, I'm going to get it done. That's it, and get it done and move forward and keep going on that, get it done with. So those are my goals for this coming year, so, or this next up to summer into fall. I'll leave it at
That's a
that
lot of
now.
success.
Yeah. And just be, I guess the last one is just become a better person. I'd be a better dad, be a better person.
Can you put Bandit? Can you
Yeah.
put Bandit on
Yeah.
that?
Smokey is bad. Those kids.
No, not that Bandit. Not that Bandit. I don't know how good of a
Well,
father
I think-
that one is.
I think that's every day though. I think that's every day to try to become a better person. I have a lot of generation gap. There's a huge generation gap between me and the student staff, and so I see things very differently than how they see things. And it's interesting conversation. I think we lose each other in between, but we connect in some way. And so
Thumbs up to that.
I try to be better than that. I guess that's just me.
You'll reach the chicken jockey one day.
No, my goodness.
Chicken.
Okay.
That's funny. I'm also working on my PhD.
Mhm.
Not for 14 years. Maybe I'll get there. Who knows? I'm at like year 5, maybe something like that. But I'm working on defending my proposal this coming year. Like hopefully by the end of the year. So that'd be a success for me, of course. The other big thing for me recently is outside of school academics, etc. But I've been getting more and more into my like gardening.
Mm.
So I'm trying to keep creating
What do you have?
things and eating them. I've been growing like radishes and a couple different types of greens. Even doing a lot of salad type. Cilantro is growing. I did plant a tree. I planted a lime tree, but I'll need to wait like a year for that to come to fruition.
Mm.
And then I'm growing some chiltepín that I'm gonna put
Mm.
in the ground. Some shishito peppers. Lots of different, yeah. So I'm trying to. That's like a big goal of mine. You know, been getting into all that, the homesteading stuff too. Try to get some chickens. So I'm trying to go to the grocery store less. Chickens are expensive. In this economy, I'm gonna get my own chicken. I don't even need to go to the chicken shop.
Yeah.
I just go to my yard.
And you could put
Pay other ones.
and you
Pay
could
other
put a
people to
baby
be honest.
zombie on it.
Yeah. All you need is onions. You have like all the menudo sides.
True. I didn't do any cabbage though. I do need to put some cabbage. Goodbye,
Thank you all.
Take
Goodbye.
care, everybody.
The comment card. Okay, bye.
Maybe the real PhD was the friends we made along the way.
For sure.
Beautiful.
Lots of friends.
Alright, take care, everyone. Good luck with the rest of your semester.